All right, so isolated countries in Europe. They're the obvious ones, like for example, Iceland is obviously isolated from everything. But there are some that are unexpected. I'm gonna talk about it because I only realized that during my travels. One that I didn't think was isolated, but actually is Portugal. Because well, if you see it geographically, it already kind of makes sense. But also, everything around Portugal, like there's not a lot of people there because most of Spain is like north and east. Also a little bit here in the south, and there's like mountains that divide Portugal and Spain. So it is really kind of isolated in the sense that like you're unlikely to be driving Portugal to any other country except for maybe Spain, maybe France, and mostly you're going to be taking flights to other parts of Europe. Whereas like I don't know if you're in Italy, it's very realistic that you could honestly drive anywhere to the Baltics, to Switzerland, Austria, France, Spain. So obviously it's much more centrally located. And then, of course, if you're right in the middle of Eastern Europe, like Budapest, for example, you can take trains like all of those regions over here. So I would say Portugal is fairly isolated in that sense. Second, I'll say the United Kingdom and Ireland. Not so much because of distance, even though it's also kind of true. They also have to take flights. I mean, by definition, right? They're islands. But also because they're out of Schengen. So when I was going from Ireland to Croatia, and then also when I was going from Portugal to the UK, uh, I had forgotten completely that border crossing existed because I had been traveling for months on end just in the Schengen area, and it must be a hassle. Like if you had Ireland as a base or UK as a base, uh, I don't know, passport checkpoints every time you travel in Europe is kind of annoying. The checkpoint in Split took like, I don't know, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, and that's 40 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. So they're isolated in that sense as well. Another country that I am definitely going to say is isolated, even though you might think it's not, is actually Switzerland, which is unexpected because it's in the middle. So you might think, oh no, Switzerland is right in the middle. It's the most connected country. It has great infrastructure, but I don't know. Maybe it's because it's not in the EU, but it feels a little bit isolated. Swiss people, they really do consider themselves Swiss. They don't consider themselves European. They're more uh, reserved to their country, and obviously there's a lot going to the border to go to the supermarket and stuff like that. But if you're just traveling around, the flights to and from Switzerland are never going to be the cheapest ones, even if you take like Ryanair or something, I don't know, those equivalent jet lines. And also trains, the trains in Switzerland are also a lot more expensive. Flixbus is harder to find, so like there's not that many Flixbus options that just go crossing the country all around. So I did feel like it was a little bit less connected to the rest of Europe than, for example, France or Belgium or the Netherlands or, well, any part of Eastern Europe, to be real. And then last, I'm going to say that countries that are also very isolated, the Baltics, because they're literally like surrounded by the Baltic Sea, Russia, Belarus, and a little bit of Poland. So they really do have only themselves to talk to. They're kind of sad. And also other countries that are pretty isolated at Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine, Moldova as well, because they're not part of the EU. They're farther away east. They have very different geopolitics, to say the least. So yeah, those are probably the most isolated countries in Europe.